Welcome to SA News. Today on SA News, very excited to have two people involved with this amazing project. I was lucky enough to watch this and with my family, and it was amazing. Welcome to SA News. Can you share with me a little bit about what it took to make this and cultivate this beautiful project?
Well, first off, I just want to say, we love the fact that you watched it with your family. It sort of reminds us of what we used to have with TV, where you could watch things with your family and just have discussions about it. And so, thank you for doing that. And yeah, what did it take to bring this to light?
Yeah, it's Disney came to us and Imagine came to us and asked if we wanted to take over the fourth season of Genius and focus on Martin Luther King Jr., which we felt was a very cool idea. But as we thought about it, we realized for us, we felt it was also important to involve Malcolm X. We felt that in terms of the movement, we felt both men were equally important to each other, not just the movement. They both pushed each other, inspired each other. And so we said, really, they're two sides of the same coin. And we felt that was the best way to tell the story. Thankfully, they embraced it and saw what we saw. And we got to do the first season, which followed two great geniuses.
It's
Yeah, and
phenomenal.
and as well, along with Malcolm and Martin, it was so important for us as well to really lean into Coretta and Betty.
Yes.
Coretta Scott King and Betty Shabazz.
Such a phenomenal series. Throughout my entire upbringing, we hear these stories, and whenever I try to educate myself on Martin and then switch over to Malcolm, I always am wondering what was happening parallel at the same time. So watching this allows me the ability to kind of quiet my anxiety and allows me to just take in the information at a very cohesive, parallel sense. And I think it answered a lot of questions to my kids as well, because they were asking, they were there at this place? Was that person there at this place? Like, it's like, so many revelations were being brought out, so many conversations. In your research, what was the one thing that you really wanted to highlight that you thought was important to share?
Really, there's so many things. We started the whole process, the whole writing process, with having a think tank. And that was really a 2-week process of us sitting with, and the writers sitting with an incredible group of scholars and religious scholars and activists, people who knew Betty and Coretta, Malcolm and Martin, psychologists, and an author named Peniel Joseph, who wrote a book called The Sword and the Shield, which was really a really important inspiration for us, as well as Jeff Stetson, who created a play called The Meeting, which came out years ago, that was about a fictionalized meeting between King and X. And so in getting to listen to this incredible group, we learned so much about not only the iconic moments that we know about, but what was happening behind that. And even more importantly, who they were as humans, taking them off the t-shirt, making them real. So that was a big part of it.
To me personally, I grew up with nothing but female role models. When I see this, it really digs into my feeling about how I connect to the mother, to the female. I'm learning so much watching this that it just kind of enlightens me and makes me feel happy that we're seeing what was happening behind the scenes and knowing how much the female was a part of this story that wasn't really told before. And I really love that. And can you share with me how important that was to bring that out?
For those that don't know, Coretta Scott King was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s wife. Betty Shabazz was Malcolm X's wife. And they weren't just important, to their husbands, really, really important to the movement. Decades ago, I was in Harlem when Nelson Mandela visited the United States. And there was something that always haunted me, which was this amazing moment where Betty Shabazz met Winnie Mandela for the first time. And they hugged and held on to each other and cried like these long lost sisters. And so when Gina and I started to talk about it, I spoke about that moment. And of course, Gina as well, just spoke about how so much of, in the civil rights movement, a lot of the contributions of women are overlooked.
After watching it, I'm not feeling that I need to go and research so much more about Martin or Malcolm. I'm wanting to learn more about all the people around them.
Mm.
Um, what was important about, do you feel that kind of crystallizing some information about some people that were overlooked that you were able to include in the series?
Well, that again was the exciting thing about the think tank, is to learn about people that were also integral to the movement and to both men and both women. So we actually hope that in watching our series, it does inspire you to want to know more and to investigate more, especially in this time where our history, our culture is under attack, and people are trying to literally rewrite or change our history. Being able to watch this and see it and then go and continue your knowledge of this movement and of these people is really important to us.
What was it that was the most exciting for you to work on? And then what did you wind up taking away, that what was the switch, that there was something else that you felt like this part actually is the most important part that I'm left with after the series?
I mean, I think for me, actually, what was most exciting were not the historical moments, but the personal moments, really revealing their humanity, really portraying them not as these icons, but human beings, and really making them accessible in that way so that our entire audience can see them as human beings, and then sort of find the Malcolm, Martin, Betty, Coretta within themselves. So I think that was the most exciting for me.
I think for me, it goes to the humanity as well, but so often we're taught that there was such great conflict between the two men, and to be able to hear that on the death of Malcolm X, that Martin Luther King Jr. wrote a letter to Betty. I didn't know that. And it goes to, again, the fact that although they were going about things differently, they both had the same goal and they both respected each other. So that was a big part of our narrative as well.
There are certain parts where your heart just stops. One part that I took away the most with watching it with my children, because many times as a father, I'm explaining to my children, don't do this, don't do that. They're not understanding at the moment. But when Malcolm pulls out the keys to his vehicle and then what happens after that, that just, I think I was explaining to my kids, like, you just have to sometimes listen and understand that your parents are your protectors and that they're always two steps ahead of the situation. I can't even imagine what it took to be a parent within the confines of these two titans. Anything you'd like to share in regards to that?
I mean, I think that's just, another amazing revelation we have is with all the threats, with all the pressure, with all this intensity around them, their commitment never wavered. They were really committed to making the world better, really committed to uplifting, and um, and it was just really amazing to come across it in our research process.
It's an amazing series. I loved it, and there will be a point this month that I rewatch it because I loved it that much. What would you like to say to those out there to come out and watch it?
We feel we created something really special that took these two geniuses and made them real in a way that we can identify with them in this moment in time, even though, again, that their story took place in the 50s and 60s. It's absolutely vital that we understand what they were trying to teach us and show us, the fight, the commitment that they had, and the hopes that that can inspire us in this moment to do the same.
Yeah, and Malcolm X had a famous quote that he'd say, "By any means necessary." You know, Dr. Martin Luther King would say, "I have a dream." So we always like to say, since we're merging both of them and we need both of them, we like to encourage our audience to realize, by any means necessary, have a dream.
Now, Black History Month, how important is this that we bridge and take this opportunity to learn and grow with the actual knowledge that you've put think tanks around this to make sure that it was the best representation of the time?
We recognize, this is Black History Month, but this story is also American history, and this period piece feels contemporary because it speaks to the urgency of now and some of the issues that we saw them dealing with still feel very relevant. And as Gina referenced, there seems to be not just a retelling of history, but a censorship. Martin's letter from the Birmingham jail is banned in states in this country. The autobiography of Malcolm X is challenged. So we just really feel the importance, the urgency, and the timeliness of telling the story.
Well, thank you, Gina and Reggie. It's an amazing series, and I can't wait for so many others to see this. It's such a blessing that we're able to come together and watch something and learn and grow and become better people through, so we can not have to repeat those challenges. So thank you for your time here on SA News in San Antonio.
We appreciate it.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.